Welcome to Threads of Sustainability, where we dive into the stories behind sustainable quilting and textile arts. I'm your host, Bridget O'Flaherty, guiding you through the vibrant world of eco-conscious creators, innovators, producers, and industry players. Join us as we explore the intersection of textile creativity and sustainability, a narrative that threads together the past, present, and future of mindful textile practices. Hi there. I am so excited to introduce you to our guest today, and the conversation with her was such an exciting conversation. Very interesting to talk because this topic has been coming up for me a lot lately about using what we have and using our own stash that we have first, and then maybe going and purchasing fabric in whatever way we want to do that, whether that's through upcycling or organic fabrics or just going to your local quilt shop and supporting them. Lots of different choices. But before you go there, use your own stash and use up your stash. So she challenged herself to do that this last year or two. And it was really interesting to see how she arrived at that decision and what it's done for her mental health since she made that decision. So yeah, I really hope you enjoy today's conversation. It really goes around in a lot of different places. She's been in the industry, so she's got some really great insights. And I hope you enjoy the conversation. I want to welcome to the podcast this week. I've got Kate Hay here with me, and Kate goes by Miss Kate. Miss Kate Quilts or Miss Kate?
Actually, in like real life, in the real world, all my friends call me Miss Kate. My niece and nephew don't call me Aunt Kate; they call me Miss Kate. And so I have been Miss Kate now for years. And so when people call me regular Kate, like in my actual life, I'm like, oh, they're talking about someone else. And so yeah,
Okay, so tell me your business name. Tell me your business name.
So I actually don't have a business.
Okay.
I just have me and friendship. And so that Instagram is going to be a quilt with Miss Kate. But yeah, that's me. So quilt with Miss Kate.
Quilt with Miss Kate. Okay. I came across you on Instagram, which is where I often find the folks that I do interviews for on this podcast, because I've found some really interesting people having interesting conversations on the Instagrams. And I'm not on TikTok because I can only handle so many platforms. And I cannot process doing the TikToks. So I do the Instagram and I do the Facebook, and that's about it. I do YouTube as well a little bit, but yeah. So I'm not out there searching on those other ones, but mostly Instagram. So that's where I saw you. And I was really curious about what you're doing and how you're presenting yourself and what we're talking about around sustainability, and thought it'd be good to have a conversation with you. So welcome to the show.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here and to talk about sustainability in quilt world and everything that entails.
So you have a background really in the industry. So tell us a little bit about that.
I do. So I have been a quilter now. This will be 22 years of quilting as a consumer. And then
so you started when you were a kid?
12.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I started when I was 12. I was homeschooled. And so my mom signed us up for like all kinds of different classes and everything. Nice. And so when I was 12, she signed us up for a quilt class, her and I together. And so we learned together. So we are first generation. And so people will ask, they'll be like, oh, did your mom teach you to quilt? Absolutely not. The woman was sitting beside me and was like, I don't know what a 1/4 inch seam is. And so our first sewing machine, because we shared it, our first sewing machine, we went to a Kohl's, which is kind of like a department store.
Yep.
And we found a sewing machine, I think right after Christmas. So it was on sale and it was $100.
Nice.
And we just carried it around the store and asked random women, will this sew a quilt? And so that's how we got our first sewing machine. We take turns on it.
You know, what's amazing about that though, is the women would be like right in there, and suddenly there's a community conversation happening around your sewing machine, right?
It was. And they were like, well, I hem pants, or like some of them quilted. And we just went up to every woman in the store and asked.
That's
and
awesome.
I said yes. And some were afraid and like kind of walked away. But so we bought it, and for years, it felt like years. It may not have been years. My mom would take the ruler and literally draw a 1/4 inch seam on the fabric and then just be like, sew on that. And so like, that's how I learned to perfect my 1/4 inch seam.
Nice.
And then my first ever job when I was a teenager was at a quilt store. and I just basically folded fat quarters for like 2 years. And then I said, I'm never going to work at a quilt store again. I'm a big girl. I'm going to get a big girl job. And then my mom became a manager of a store. And so I started working there. And then I said, okay, well, I'm done. I'm never going to work in a quilt store again. I'm going to go get a big girl job. And I did that. And then my mom bought what is now the largest quilt store in Virginia. And
what's the name of that store?
It's Patchwork Plus in Dayton, Virginia. So
Nice.
shout out to Mom.
Yeah.
And she said, will you come home and manage the store? And I said, yes. So I ended up managing her store for 8 years. And
so before we move into your next step, what did you go away in your big girl job and do? Anything related?
No, I did research at the London Olympics in 2012, and then I went to school in the UK, and then I moved to the Bahamas, and then I went into Mom's store.
Okay. So you did a little circuitous route.
Yes. So I went and got my big girl job. I have degrees in neuroscience and biochemistry and kinesiology. And so I was heavily in science for a while.
Nice. I find it really interesting. A lot of quilters have this duality of creative and science mind, right? Yeah. Yeah.
Well, and a lot of husbands too. I mean, a lot of women who are engineers do it, but a lot of men who were engineers when they retire, cut out the fabric for their spouses.
They love doing that. Yeah, sure.
Yeah. So, or really, really love long arm machines and will run the long arm because again, it's just that like analytical mind is like, X, Y axis. Okay. And so
I've met a lot of quilters, male and female, who have like this duality, like, and I am like that as well. I have a real science side to me, and then I have a creative side as well. And it seems to fit really well with textiles.
It's wonderful.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So carry on. So now you're back with Mom.
So I'm back with Mom, manage her floor and like take over her kits and everything. So my mom's store always has 200 plus kits up at a time. And so
you have an online space as well.
She's online. She's in person. She's just a Jill of all trades, as far as that goes. So I did that for years. And then I was just ready to move on to something bigger because her store is in a really beautiful small town in the mountains of North Carolina. And I was like, I just want to spread my wings. Sure. And so I had friends who worked at Moda, and I just called and said, hey, do you need anyone to like sweep the floors or take out trash or just do anything? And they responded and were like, actually, would you want to apply for a job as a rep? And I was like, yes. And so then I became a rep just in time for COVID. And so when everyone was at home for COVID, I was on the road the whole time.
So what was that like for you?
Oh man, that was brutal. So I loved my stores. I loved being in my stores, but travel during COVID, like, most of the restaurants were closed.
Oh yeah.
For takeout, all the rest stops. So if you had to go potty, you had to like find somewhere because they were all closed. A lot of hotels, like once you checked in, you couldn't leave your room.
Right.
And so it was very isolating as far as if I was store, I was with people and I was great. And I was with quilters and that was wonderful. But if I wasn't in a store, I was by myself. For weeks at a time. And so
did you have your sewing machine in your back of your car?
Super hard. I took it sometimes, but because I'd be somewhere so infrequently, like, you know, having to set up your machine and you're cutting that, take it out of the car, move it and set it up for like a day and then take it down. And then, so I didn't actually do a ton of sewing. While I was on the road, unless I was making samples for my store or to show my stores. I would usually sew when I was back at my house though. So I would take a machine on basically long road trips. And so, so I did that until I met the love of my life. And then we moved out here to Maui. And so that's when I realized, Out here, most quilts and quilters do Hawaiian quilting, which
Sure.
is just
Beautiful. Yeah.
gorgeousness, like just absolutely gorgeous. But it's very, very slow going.
Sure.
Because it's all by hand, right?
Yep.
Like that's how it goes. And my ADHD is like, if we can't do 7 projects at a time, we're gonna die. And
Right.
so I tried, I took the class. It was wonderful. I made like 1/18 of a pillow, and I was
Right.
like, I'll do this to y'all. You're so good. I'm gonna go do something else. And
Yeah. Yeah.
so then I realized I needed quilty friends. And so I turned to the internet, which I had long dreaded. And
Yeah.
my people are here somewhere. I will find them.
And
So
so tell me more about the shift. So you've moved to Maui, and what are you doing? You're not working as a sales rep anymore, I'm assuming? Or are
no,
you?
no.
No.
And so
Okay.
I worked for a sales rep in the Southeast. And so now someone else took over that territory and does a fantastic job. I love her. And so I'm out here. I work at Barnes and Noble. And
Okay.
so I am basically Belle from Beauty and the Beast. So I just sell books, or You've Got Mail when it's Meg Ryan's character. And so living my best life in the bookish world. And then, yeah, kind
You
of
come home and quilt and sew.
quilt things for funsies when I'm not
Okay.
working.
Okay. And so you tell me how you started to change your focus around the work that you're doing in your quilt world.
So I went, I'm guessing you mean from like being in sales of fabric to being more like, oh, what's in our stash?
Yeah.
And so I, for years, didn't actually grow my stash very much, because when I was working at Mom's, all of our sewing was making samples for the store. And
Yeah.
so then all the scraps would go back to the store and go into scrap packs. And so I was kind of not gaining a lot of fabric during that time. And
Okay.
then when I became a rep, not only was I selling fabric, I also was buying fabric. So I had over
Sure.
200 stores. And so like I was in and out of multiple stores a day. So I
Right.
got to see everything new and exciting and how people kitted it or whatever, bundled it, and was completely enthralled, loved it. And so I bought a lot, but because I was traveling, I wasn't sewing through a lot, but I was hoarding it all like a little dragon. And I
Yeah.
would pet it sometimes when I was at home and say, oh, you're so pretty. But I found myself more, I don't know, collecting fabric than using fabric. And
Right.
then I got to a point where I had so much that I couldn't even figure out what I wanted to make,
Right.
because
It's a
it
little
was just so much.
overwhelming, right?
It was so overwhelming. It was so overstimulating because I had so much. Even if I was like, oh, I really want to use that butterfly fabric, I had no idea where the butterfly fabric was.
Right.
Um, and then when we decided we were going to move out here, I needed to renovate the house I was living in to make it into a rental. And I was like, okay, well, how do I make money to do that? And I looked at all those fabrics I wasn't using, and I was like, I'm going to destash some of you. And so
Yeah.
I ended up destashing on Instagram,
Okay.
and I destashed enough between my stash and then selling quilts. Mom and I had made us samples for the shop. Between the two, I was able to completely pay for the renovation of my house,
Wow. Nice.
including a new kitchen, a new bathroom, a new porch, insulation, cleaning.
What's I'm not sure what I'm more baffled by is that you were able to actually fund all of that,
Yeah,
but that you had that much fabric that
I
you're
know,
able to
right?
fund all of that. Oh
Isn't
my
that
God.
insane?
That's a lot of fabric.
But here's the thing, truly, I think a lot of quilters, if they were actually honest with like going through their stash, or if you actually, like me, had to have money for life, like I had to renovate that house. I had to figure out a way to pay for it. So what did I have at my disposal was that stash.
Yeah.
And so, I actually think it's not as shocking if people actually were like, I'm going to see how much I could destash, they'd probably be shocked at what trip they could go on or what,
Right.
you
And do
know.
you find that it's still, do you still destash on your site, like on your Instagram? Is that still something that you can do easily, or has that become harder to do as the algorithms change and all of that stuff?
I haven't done it in a while. So another thing that really helped me kind of move into the more sustainable, I don't know, avenue of quilting and making was when we moved out to Hawaii. I didn't want to pay to bring a ton of fabric out here.
Sure,
And
sure.
so I brought 2 boxes of fabric.
Okay.
And I still have not sewn through most of it. And then because during that, I still get paid to make samples for shops or designers. And so they send me the fabric. I work with that and then, send them the completed tops. That still means I haven't touched my stash because I'm
Right.
making for other people.
And you get
Uh,
leftovers from that as well. And
Right. And
yeah,
so even my 2 boxes started becoming overwhelming. And I was just like, I don't know what to make because there's just so many options. Or I had half done projects. I'm like, should I finish that? And so I was like, well, what if I actually just tried to sew through what I already have? Like, what if
nice.
I did? Because, quilters talk about that all the time.
Yeah.
Like, oh, I have enough fabric to start my own quilt store, or I have enough fabric to keep me busy till I die, or
Yeah.
whatever. And between moving out here and not bringing a lot, and also when I worked when I worked at mom's, not infrequently, loved ones would come in of quilters who had passed away,
Yeah.
and they would say, I have so much fabric, or I
Yeah.
have so many
And they don't know what
projects
to do with
I
it.
have done, and they have no idea what to do with it.
Yeah.
None. And they come into quilt stores and are like, what do I do? And most quilt stores like
Don't
have
know.
different
Yeah.
organizations they can like recommend or say like, hey, put it on Facebook Marketplace.
Yeah.
But there's just, and that was pretty frequent that you would just boxes. And I was like,
Yeah.
I don't want to have that. That's not
Yeah.
inspirational to me to
Well, and
have.
it's overwhelming. Yeah, to have that kind of, you're leaving that legacy then for your family to deal with in some way as well, right? Like I faced that with my mother who passed away, and she was a quilter and she had a quilt store, and so the amount of fabric I inherited from her was
Mhm.
really overwhelming for me, and I was fabric I wouldn't use in the quilts that I do, in the stuff that I make. And so then I was faced with like, how do I find places for this to go? Because I'm not throwing it out, but
Right.
where
Right.
do I send it? And that was something that my mom left, and then I had to deal with. She also suffered with Alzheimer's for 10 years. So it wasn't a decision she made. It just
Right.
was how our lives unraveled. And now, I'm not elderly. I'm in my 50s, but I think about my kids, and what am I leaving behind for them, and how will they deal, because they're not quilters, how will they deal with my
Right.
textiles, and I don't want to leave that kind of legacy. I don't want to have that kind of burden on my family at all. And
Right.
so I'm trying to find ways to use what I have, but I'm also trying to work on finding resources for other people for where they can send that kind of stuff. Like that's a resource that I'm working on here in Canada, is to find those recycle places, the reuse places, the maker spaces where they will make things from your materials, that kind of stuff. That collection's coming together. And which is one of the reasons I was really interested in talking with you, because you're doing that kind of stuff for yourself proactively now, which is so helpful for people to kind of realize how they can approach this.
Every time I destash, I've never regretted a destash. I have never regretted not having as many physical items.
Yeah, it lightens the load, right?
It gives me so much more headspace and so
Yeah.
much more creativity.
Yeah.
And now, like, if I find fabric I like that's new, I have no guilt about buying it either and being like, I have it for this project. And I think that sometimes that happens to sustainability. People are like, oh, well, sustainability, you must be saying you can never look at new fabric again.
No,
Or
no,
I'm
no.
like, no. Girl, I love a fabric store. I love new
Sure.
fabric, but I don't love extreme ownership of
Yeah.
mass amounts of stuff. And that to me has felt very stifling, and getting rid of that has felt very freeing.
Yeah.
And so I don't know, I love feeling creative. And I think that's why we do this, is feeling creative and inspired. And for me, that has been elevated by having less of a stash.
Yeah. Yeah, I get that. No, totally. It opens up creative space for you, right? You're not feeling the burden of, I have to do something with that fabric because I bought it, I spent the money on it, and I can't just leave it sitting there. And then you kind of get overwhelmed with the volume of that, and you get crippled by it, and you do nothing. You make nothing.
Right.
Yeah.
That's the worst. Well, and also I grew up, my dad was a pastor and we lived on a single income. So single income on a pastor's salary translates to we had no money.
Right.
And so another thing for younger quilters, first off, we're having, there's economic hardships right now, just like kind of across the board. And there's inflation. So things are expensive. We're getting paid less. And so feeling this need to hamster wheel of like all the newest all the time is financially stressful to try to keep up. And just like buying new fabric all the time. And so I also think a really cool thing about sustainability is looking for those of us who have large stashes to look at it and say like, okay, well, I can part with XYZ or whatever. And then if you have younger, or not like younger than you, but like younger quilters who are newer in their quilt journey, to be able to gift them fabric is also huge. Cause I know earlier in my mom and I's story, when people gifted us fabric, that meant then we could quilt.
Right.
Cause sometimes it means like the difference between like, I can't quilt right now because I can't afford fabric or thread or notions or whatever. And I can, and that comes from generosity too. And so I think that's a really amazing part about sustainability as well. It's kind of like sustaining each other through sharing. And so that's been a really cool part of, I don't know, my recent quilt journey and just how generous quilters are.
Quilters are super generous people. Yeah.
So nice. And then it inspires me. I'm like, well, what can I do? Yeah. And so just how many avenues of sustainability in the makerspace exist that I didn't know was sustainable practices. And then you're like, oh.
Well, a big part of sustainability is really that community connection, right? And how we fill our own cups and how we feel fulfilled. And then we are able to connect within our community because we actually have room to grow and room to spare in our cups because we filled it up. And so we have the space to be able to join into these community efforts and community events that are going on where we might be making a shared quilts or doing swap shares or sharing knowledge even, like you have the space and capacity to do that. And quilter communities are really rich with that. Yeah. It's so important. That social aspect is such an important part of sustainability. Without all three, the pillars of sustainability, which are the people, profit, planet, or community, benefits, and materials, environment. We can look at it whatever way we want to, but it's those people. The people is the big part of sustainability. And without having that consideration, we don't have sustainability. This is a great time for me to jump in here and extend an invitation to you folks. For those of you who might have promised yourselves to do a stash review this year, I know I'm one of those people. I'm inviting you to come and join me on a 30-day stash review challenge, where we get a chance to take a look at our materials and assess what the value is of them. Are they precious? Are they functional? Are they things that we maybe don't need in our lives anymore? And how can we sustainably move them from our stash to somebody else's so they have a circular process to them? We're going to take a look at all of that and take a look at how we can actually do those kinds of things and learn some of the stories behind some of the materials that we have in our stashes and share that stuff with each other in the Green Stitchers Hive. If you haven't joined the Green Stitchers Hive already, you can head over to my website at bridgetoflaherty.com and learn more about the 30-day challenge and the Green Stitchers Hive. Let's jump back into that conversation with Kate. We were talking about community and the importance of those connections that we get and how organic that ends up being with our quilting communities that we have. So let's continue that conversation.
Also, I don't know, like destashing or donating or anything, we primarily do it for others, right? We want to be involved in other people's success. We're like, oh, how can I help set you up for your success? And like a byproduct is I'm setting myself up selfishly for my own success by getting this out of my life, but hopefully blessing you by putting it into your life too.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
I think until, I don't know, maybe this is just a personal thing and no one else feels this way. But I also think that sustainability as a word or like sustainable maker has had a strange narrative associated with it. Again, in that to me, like a sustainable maker, I was like, am I a sustainable maker? Because I love new fabric.
Yeah, you're not using upcycled clothing to make your quilts. No. But that's not the only way to be sustainable.
No. And I think that is becoming more mainstream is I don't know, better or more broad understanding of what sustainable is and looks like. Yeah. And so I'm really excited for that changing face, especially in maker, like there's so many scrappy quilts right now happening.
Yeah. Scrappy quilts are a big thing right now. Yeah.
They're so big. And then I was making, I don't have it in here, the strawberry block that's just everywhere. And nice. I apparently hate green fabric because I had none. And I just put on the internet like, hi, I'm really sorry if any of you have like green scrappies. Can you please send me some? And people were so generous. And I was nice. Like, huh. So this whole sustainability thing, like you said, does go to like community. And now I feel closer to these people I've talked to about like, and who have sent me things and who in the future, if they need something, hopefully I can show up for them like they showed up for me. Yeah. Because it is a lot more community building, again, than I realized, than just buying new fabric all the time, which makes me feel good. Yeah. And makes the shop owner feel good, I'm sure. Yeah. But it's transactional. It's transactional. It is transactional.
The exchange that happens with people is also transactional, but it's got a different kind of benefit at the end of the day. Right?
It does. Yeah. So again, unexpected awesomeness.
Nice, nice. So tell me about some of the projects that you're working on right now. Like when you are, you're going through your stash, you're going through your made projects, your partially made projects. How are you, like, share with us how you what your process is with those.
So going back to, again, being overwhelmed or overstimulated or triggered or whatever about just the mass amount of half done projects, quarter done projects in my mind, project possibilities, I actually started going on to Instagram and just giving 3 options and saying, I can't pick, y'all pick. And so I'm like, here's what they look like. Whatever you say goes. And that's what I've been doing. And it's been wonderful because then I can't talk myself out of what I don't want to do. Right. I just finished Rainbow Road by Annabelle Wrigley. I got the kit from her and the pattern. Also, I love buying kits. I think they're actually super sustainable because you have the fabric that you need and then no more really. So I had the kit and I had done all the paper piecing because I love paper piecing, but I was afraid of curves. So I put it in a box and I was like, well, maybe the next generation will finish that. I was super scared. And then I put it on the internet. I put it on Instagram and I was like, hey, what should I do? And curves won second place. And I was like, dang it. I
gotta learn how to do curves.
I know. And so then I did, and now it's finished. It's sitting in there. The top's done. And I would have never probably gotten around to it. I would have talked my way out of it.
Yeah. And what are you doing with your finished quilts? What are you doing with them?
Oh, I hoard them.
You hoard them.
So Again, I'm still very new to getting to make whatever I want to make.
Okay.
And so it just feels like the Twilight Zone. And
Yeah.
so I give away a lot of quilts. I have a lot of weddings coming up. So a lot of weddings. And then I actually have 4 baby quilts sitting right here. I can see them ready to go out tomorrow in the mail. So it's
Okay.
been a lot of baby quilts and a lot of wedding quilts lately.
But that's you giving to your community again, right?
Oh,
That's
yeah.
you're giving in with your own people. You're sharing your gifts, you're sharing your space. It's good stuff.
I call quilts tangible love. And so it just is a tangible, I love you.
Yeah.
That's to me what quilts are. And then my mom and I have been involved now for almost 20 years in the prayer quilt ministry. So a lot of our quilts go to that. And then this year, so like I said, for when I renovated my house, my mom and I sold a lot of our quilts to pay for the renovation. And then this year, my Nana's in her 80s and can no longer live by herself. And so my mom and dad are building on uh,
Like a
a
granny
first
suite.
story, yeah, for
Yeah.
her. And so this summer on Facebook, we're going to have a big quilt sale again. And then all of those proceeds will go to my mama to building a room for her mama. And
Nice.
so, yeah,
Nice.
just always try to, I don't know, always just try to keep giving in
Yeah.
them.
It's
I
amazing
guess
what comes back when you give, right? And you get it's in surprising ways.
it's in magical ways.
Yeah.
It really is. And
Yeah.
so, yeah,
So
quilts are great.
so talk to me a little bit about what you're starting to learn and what you think you would love to do. Like if you had, your pick of changes you could make in your practice of your quilting and what you do and how you're doing it, what would you like to see done differently that leads you in
I,
a sustainable path? What
for
are you
me,
challenging yourself with?
oh my gosh, so much. For me, actually, just through having the conversation we've been having, the biggest thing that's been on my heart, and now again, like we've been talking about, is the community and having a
Yeah.
quilt community. I think largely quilting is a solo sport. And so yeah, there are quilt retreats, there are classes, but I would say like 80, 90, 100% of the time, we're kind of by ourselves,
Yeah.
which for all of us introverts is wonderful.
Yeah.
But also, we're not created to be isolated or to
No.
be by ourselves. And so I have really loved being part of swaps this year.
Okay.
And I hadn't really done that. And I've challenged myself for all my swaps. I have to use fabric I already own for this year.
Nice.
And so getting to like cut the good fabric for a complete stranger after I wouldn't cut it for myself. I'm like, yeah, internet stranger, like, this is my best stuff. Of course you can, let me make something for you. That's been really cool. I guess just giving my best or giving my heart to people I don't necessarily know face to face in the quilt world has been my challenge due to like requirement. I live on a rock in the middle of the ocean.
Right.
Um,
You're not so close to people. Yeah.
No, and especially not quilters. And so
Yeah.
that's my challenge of sustainability is like using the things I have been hoarding and just kind of pouring out with what talents we have as quilters to someone else.
Nice.
Because I don't know, how many quilts do I need?
Yeah, that's fair. It's a fair question.
And so I would much rather. So I'm loving swaps. I'm loving swaps this year. I also really, truly am trying to sew through all of my works in progress.
Okay. How many works in progress do you have?
Shockingly, not as many as one would think. But again, I've been working on it for now like a year.
Okay.
Intentionally or unintentionally. So, but in there right now, half done projects, I probably have like 4 or 5 I
Okay.
don't know what's at my parents' house because again, I only brought 2 boxes. So,
Right. So your
you
mother
know,
might have a box for you.
right, right.
Yeah.
And when they came out for Christmas, my mom was like, "Do you want me to bring you a suitcase of more of your stuff?" And I was like, "No, no, no, no." And so, yeah, so community using what I already have in those sew-alongs or swaps, and working through my works in progress, and just really truly I'm trying to use the fabric I have before buying anything else. So the only things I bought so far this year, mind you, it's February, what, 3rd, 5th. But the only things I bought this year are destashes from other
Okay.
people. And so that's
Yeah.
all I've bought. That's
And,
true. That's
and
true.
and do you see that as being maybe a way forward for you that you would only buy a destash fabrics?
Absolutely no. I love new fabric. I love quilt stores. I love when they kit things. I love when they bundle things. I love all of it. No, no, no. I will be in quilt stores buying new things as long as I live. But
But
won't do it at the frequency that I had been. And
okay,
I will never again let my fabric keep me from sewing.
nice. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's a super important caveat to put in there. And again, the whole idea around sustainability is there are different ways to look at it and different lenses. And one person's goal might be to, if they're buying new fabrics, they're only going to do things that are organic or upcycled, recycled materials, or, that they're only going to buy destash, or they're only going to buy certified fabrics, or whatever that goal might be for them. And another person might be like, no, I'm only using upcycled stuff. I am not going to buy any new fabrics, whether it's destash or not. I only want to use clothing or stuff that I'm getting from a thrift shop. None of those are better than the other. They're all different decisions that we get to make for ourselves that helps us move forward and take steps towards sustainability. And that goal for you, I expect if I talk to you in another year, you're going to have a whole new set of goals for yourself, right? Like we keep growing with that.
Exactly. That's what I was going to say. Like, I never want my goals to kind of carry on or cease to evolve from year to year.
Yeah.
It's just like a relationship with my fiance. I fully expect me to be in love with a completely different version of him in 5 years,
Right.
because he will be a completely different version of himself
Sure.
in 5
Of
years.
course. Yeah.
And I will be a completely different version of myself in 5 years. So that's how
Yeah.
I feel about these goals too. It's like, yeah,
They will
but
evolve. Yeah.
no, I think I've been in the quilt world long enough that I'm like, I have to support my quilty store friends.
Sure.
I
Sure.
love them.
Well, and
And
part of that is also sustainability, right? We're in a textile industry that really does foster these beautiful communities and creativity. And in order for that to be a sustainable industry, we have to support it. And we have to support the people we want to support that are meaningful for us, right? And that
yeah,
again looks different for everybody.
well, and when I grew up in quilty world, I remember a very common piece of advice was, people always ask, like, if you find a fabric you really like, how much do you buy?
Right.
And very, very commonly, or at least where I am from, the answer is 3 yards.
Right.
Because then if you want to make a border, you can, or, the rationale makes sense. Like I hear you and I hear the logic. If you like something, 3 yards. If I bought fabric of everything I like for 3 yards of it, holy shit. Like,
You'd need
are
a new
you,
building.
what? Are you
Yeah.
going to talk about amount of fabric I would never be able to sew through my whole entire life? Like,
Yeah.
3 yards? Or I used to work at my mom's store, right? There would be sometimes, this is embarrassing. This is embarrassing, but true. There would be sometimes if I liked a collection, I would buy the whole collection myself,
Right.
personally.
Right.
Bolts of the entire collection.
Wow.
That's insane.
That's like 15 yards each, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Sometimes you can get them for like tens or eight.
Yeah.
And I still have like, I know one in particular where I have a full collection still completely wrapped, like at
Fully
my
intact.
parents' house.
Yeah.
And if you told 2024 version of me, like, if you like something, you can buy the full collection, I'd be like, who do that? Me, I did that. So when I say like, I like am the extreme of I have fabric, I am the extreme. Like
Yeah.
no one does that. No one does that. I did
Right.
it. And so,
And
yeah,
now though
like,
you've completely turned from that way of thinking
yeah,
and
I realized I value creativity more than I value things.
nice.
And that I was letting things get in the way of my creativity.
Yeah.
And so that's not why we do what we do.
Yeah.
And so I looked at it and I was like, okay, well, what will make me want to do this again? Or what will make this fun? Or because right now I'm just like, this is so much, I don't even know where to start.
Right. And then you're crippled. You get nowhere.
Well,
Yeah.
and now that I have the now I just want to sew all the time because I'm like, well, there's only 7 options, so I'll just do all 7.
Right.
And
Right.
so it makes it so much more fun. And I don't
Yeah.
know if you found that in your like sustainability journey. Like
Yeah. I mean, I've
it comes to
had
the
a
point where
lot
you're
of,
like fun.
yeah.
This
Well,
is fun.
it is fun. It's totally fun. I've had a lot of life getting in the way for me over the last 5 years. I've had a
Mhm.
lot of personal trauma going on in terms of my family, and that's still kind of ongoing. And so I find it less, I find when I'm dealing with that kind of grief and that kind of trauma that it's very hard to be creative. It doesn't matter what amount of material I have or don't have. For me, for some people, when they are dealing with grief and dealing with any kind of traumas they've had in their life, their creative space is what they need to get through it. For
Mhm.
me, creativity leaves the building, and I can't actually do it. But in the last 2 to 3 months, I have created more than I have in the last 4 years. So I'm getting there with it. And I am actually getting to a place where, yeah, I have space in my overall being now to be creative again. But it's taken a while. It's taken a long while. So it's not about materials for me. It's about other things in my life that have
Yeah,
gotten in the way of my creativity. Yeah.
that's fair.
Yeah, it is. And everybody goes through different things, right?
It's been a lot. And I'm
Yeah.
glad that you're so mojo is coming back and
Yeah.
that you're feeling enough mental clarity and like relief to be like, I have space for this.
Yeah.
And so I love that for you.
Yeah. Well, and in all of that, I have destashed from my mother's stash of things over the last 5 years. She
Mhm.
passed 6 years ago. And so I have managed to thin that out of my life and find other places for it to go and for it to be used. Some of it keeps coming back to me. I got a box full this summer that I had given away, it came back. And then my sister, I'd sent a bunch out to her, and she's in the middle of destashing, and she just handed me 2 boxes back of the stuff, which is okay because I now
Yeah.
have the capacity to deal with it and to figure out how to manage it. So it's okay now. But yeah, I have pared down what my sewing world was, and I reprioritized, like you say, reevaluating what my goals were with my own stash and with
Mhm.
my own way of being. And I have different goals now than I did 6 years ago for how I want to be creative.
But isn't that crazy that your mama passed away 6 years ago and you still have some of her fabric?
Oh yeah.
That's what I'm saying. And I think that that's so, so, so super normal. I think
Yeah.
that is completely the norm. That is the mainstream. I think that's so normal.
Yeah. I don't have a
That,
lot of it left. I have
yeah,
some. I have enough now that I could actually create things with it that make me feel really good. And they don't make me
that's
feel
good.
overwhelmed. Like now I'm down to the 7 choices, like you were saying, like I'm down to okay, I've got this stuff. I can make something with this. Because otherwise all of it, the big amount that I had, I couldn't ever imagine using all of it. And then doing my own creative thing as well. So
Right.
yeah.
That is the thing. When I was destashing, I would destash every Wednesday,
Yeah.
and you could only have, I think you can post, I think it's 120 times a day on Instagram
Oh
or
wow.
something,
That's a lot.
maybe 100. But it was, and I would usually have like 400 to 500 items a week that
Wow.
I could have destashed. And so some days I would do 3 days in a row, 100 items a day.
Wow.
And I promise you, if you visited my parents' house and you saw like the bins that I have left, you'd be like, you've never sold anything in your whole entire life. And that's just how much I had to destash.
Accumulated. Yeah.
And I mean, obviously the bolts when I bought like collections, that was intentional, but it's amazing how much you can accumulate without trying to.
Yeah.
Like I wasn't like intentionally like, oh, I'm going to build my stash, or like, I want to have as much fabric as anyone's ever seen ever. Or, there's that joke that so many quilters use of like, whoever dies with the most fabric wins. And
it's a very unfortunate trope. Like, I don't like that at all. I feel like it just feeds into this consumerism that is actually eating away at our souls. It's not good for us to think that way. I think, and part of that, so that this is you sparked a whole conversation here. Part of that, those tropes that come out are really sort of manipulative marketing schemes, right?
agreed.
Because they also kind of make us feel like we deserve the fabric. And so we should go out and buy, because she who dies with the most fabric wins, or they who die with the most fabric wins. And it's really unfortunate, because the sad part of it is that we're being manipulated. But the truth of the matter is we do deserve the fabric, because we do need to be able to create for ourselves and our well-being. It is good for us to sew and be creative and be part of this quilt community. They're not wrong on that part of it. It's the commodification and the consumerism and the mass consumerism that's the problem. And a whole other side of this is the way that the materials are manufactured in the first place, and the unfortunate environmental damage and the social impacts of a lot of the materials and the way they're produced in the first place. That should change. That I would like to see change a lot. But that's hard for one person to take up that torch of that battle. But I think that those are really unfortunate things that we are told and that we tell ourselves in jest, because it's actually harmful.
I hate that one. I hate whoever dies with the most fabric wins. I have to sneak this into my house. Like, don't tell my spouse. I hate that one.
Yeah.
What are the other ones? Oh, I have so much fabric. I could start my own quilt store. And I'm probably guilty. I probably said those things. Like, sure. I'm not saying, oh, I am immune to this.
Not above any of that. No, exactly. Same
or no. But the more I think about it and the more it kind of comes up, the more I'm like, I think that's icky.
Yeah.
And I think I don't want to be part of dying with unrealized dreams or hopes, or in my like travel life, in my relationships, in my quilts. Like, I don't want to die with the most fabric physically, metaphysically, like in any capacity. Do I want to have so much I thought about making or doing or seeing or saying and didn't do it?
Yeah.
And so,
well, good for you for starting to recognize those things. I think it's amazing. I really love that these kinds of conversations are starting to happen. I think they're really important.
I think they're happening more and more too.
Me too. Yeah, me too.
And it's been fascinating. I don't remember quite the context, but not long ago on my Instagram, what was I saying? I was saying like, oh, I did a post on like things I hate in quilt stores, and it got a lot of comments, and I got to read a lot of what other people hate or don't like or don't understand. And something that came up a lot that I had never considered was a lot of people were bringing up the fact that fabric companies release so much new fabric so frequently that they wish it would be less times per year, or less, you know, pieces per collection, or just like less, so that they as consumers would have more time to enjoy this line, or more time to create with this line. Because as soon as you get the fabric, so often designers or stores or manufacturers are already like, oh, we got that out to you. That's okay. So the next thing that's down the pike is this. And so there isn't a moment of peace or enjoyment, or like,
right.
Look how beautiful this is.
It's
I'm
the
going to
churn.
stare at it.
It's the
and
churn.
Create with it. And so I had never considered that. And that had never been part of my, I don't know, quilty journey, to be like, man, I really love this, but I wish it would back down a bit.
I think that's what needs to happen in the industry. We need to slow the pace down. And I think that's coming. I really do think it's coming. And I think there will be more to gain from it by slowing down than this dollar that we're chasing. I think the dollars will stay, but there will just be more meaningful production, and it'll be healthier for everybody. Everybody, the designers, the production people, the makers, all of the people, there'll be more benefit. We need to slow down.
I hope you're right. I don't see it yet.
Come on. I want to see it. Yeah.
My heart does. My little brain doesn't. Because I have been in the industry for so long, I have so many friends who are manufacturers or who are pattern designers and like fabric designers and everything, and quilt store owners. And I want them all to thrive.
Of course.
And so that's the thing that scares me about saying that I'm a sustainable maker, is that I don't want any of my friends to feel like I'm saying I don't value your work, or I don't want to pay for your work, or does that make any sense? So I'm like,
I totally get it.
All win.
Yeah. How do we all win? I think we all win by slowing down, increasing the quality, and keeping the profit the same.
Mm-hmm.
You know, increasing the quantity isn't the way to go. Increasing the quality is.
I'm cool with that. I'm so cool with that.
I don't know how we're going to get there, but that's the fight I'm going to start fighting. I want to thank you so much for the conversation. This has been really, really interesting. And as always, with almost all of my guests, well, pretty much all of my guests, I could talk to you for probably another hour and we would go through a lot more interesting conversations. So we'll just have to connect again in another 6 months or a year and see where
I would love to, and just see where we're both at and what's changed in the quilty world and what hasn't. And see if we can put our heads together. Yeah.
So tell us where people can find you. How do they find you?
Find me on Instagram and maybe TikTok, who knows, at Quilt with Miss Kate. And so I would love to be your quilt bestie. I think that's what we've talked about here, is how much the community is really the backbone of all of this. And so I live on a rock in the middle of the ocean. Please, let's be friends.
Awesome. I will put that into the show notes so that people can find you easily. Not the rock, but the links to your Instagram and TikTok. There we go. And thank you so much for this. It's been a really fascinating conversation. I appreciate it.
Thank you for, kind of bringing to light a lot of things I didn't even know I thought. And so
there you go.
I'm grateful for you.
One of my favorite things about connecting with folks through this quilting community and finding people on Instagram and following what they're doing is just how generous people are with their conversation and with their ideas, and being able to share some of the experiences that we're all going through in the quilt world as a business owner and just as a quilter in general. It's really one of my favorite parts about doing this podcast. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed that conversation with Kate, and I hope you get a chance to follow some of the things that she's doing, because she's doing great things. And I will chat with you again next time. Thanks for tuning in to another episode of Threads of Sustainability. If you enjoy the stories behind sustainable textiles, don't forget to subscribe, rate, and share the podcast. Keep the conversation going over at the Green Stitchers Hive, and until next time, let's continue working towards a future that values both creativity and our planet. Happy stitching.